In the previous module, we talked about building a human brand. In this module, we're going to talk about how you're going to humanize that brand. Let's start with the always why you're here. People buy from people that they trust. Does your audience, does your consumer trust your brand? Well, for this to happen, you must learn the power of human storytelling, which means to deliver an impactful message in a simple yet unforgettable way that your consumer will actually listen to you. Your story must have the main objective to connect people to your brand through an emotional message. So this is only possible if you put your consumer needs above your business, above your personal needs. So let's look into how we're going to get there by exploring the objectives of today's sessions. The key objectives for us, number one, is to take one step further to fall in love with storytelling. From your core belief to real insights, all the way to the people you choose to speak for the brand. You need to understand how to identify, map, and connect your creator to your brand without wasting time and using the wrong people. Lastly, build your first integrated program by understanding how you cut through in such busy space and building meaningful and real relationships with the creator in your community. The very first point is quite simple, but yet not many of us actually do. Do not start with a platform. The technology, the platform, the channel must act as an enabler, as a resource and a driver for you to tell the story. So it doesn't mean that you have to have every single time an Instagram campaign, or you have to push your program or your content through social media. You don't know. What is the idea? What is the objective? How are you truly connecting your story to a need of your consumer? So do not start with a platform. Also, have in mind that popularity does not equal to influence. Sometimes it doesn't mean that you hire and you're partnering with a creator that has 10 million followers, that's actually the right thing for your brand. You don't know. You need to know first how to establish that connection, how to build a relationship with that person in an authentic way, because popularity does not equal influence. The other point, I love this picture here. I don't know if you know who this person is. This is Charli D'Amelio. She's a TikToker, 17, 18 years old, with millions and millions of followers. Why she's relevant? Because people, her audience and her community trust her. So people buy from people they trust. There's 3 key steps for you to know when you're thinking about finding the right creator for your brand. Number 1, you have to define maximum 3 objectives that person will help your brand with. 2, identify the main activities that requires resource in your plan to achieve your goals. And 3, map your tactics to your initiatives and secure the right resources for the program. So you align your brand to the right people. Let's just recap really quick. Number 1, define maximum 3 key objectives that you want that person to help you with. Number 2, identify the main activities that the creator you're building a connection with will own and drive for you. And number 3, secure resources. Resources is people, it's time, it's money. Once you do that, you can align your brand to the right people and you start to think about finding the right creator for you. So to do this, let's just recap in a very simple way. You identify, you map, and you connect the creator with your brand. Identify, map, and connect. That's very important. Don't establish connection before you know that person is actually the right person for your brand. So in order to build an authentic and lasting connections, I want to walk you through the ladder of the creator community. So let's move into here. First, what we have, right? I'm going to go to the black one here. Make it a little bit smaller because we're going to go through left to right. And the first letter here is this person, this creator, is most likely unaware of your brand, right? Does this person know who you are? Does this person connect and engage with your brand in an ongoing basis, right? So you need to know that step first. Then the second step of this ladder is making sure that person, that creator, becomes aware of your brand, your product, and your services. And as you move up into the ladder, you need to establish a relationship so they become interested in what you do. They have a genuine and an authentic interest to what you do and what you can offer for them. It has to be a win-win relationship. And here is where you start to engage with them, right? Once you engage, you get here, and then they become the advocate of your brand, right? So you can't just ask suddenly somebody to be here for you and be the advocate if these steps here are not in place. So you need to build awareness. You need to make sure that this is actually here. Build this relationship so they become aware. And the way you do this is by starting to kind of join their conversation, by connecting with them in their platform, by connecting them, bringing your brand to their community and their environment. Once that is in place, is there an authentic interest in what you can do for them and what they can do for you? If there is, let's say there's a check here, you build an engaged relationship. And that's when it becomes a two-way conversation, right? When you're commenting on their community, they're commenting back, they're getting interested with your product, and they're maybe just starting to connect with your brand without even asking. And then this is when you create advocacy, right? Advocacy is the highest level of influence. So this is what I call highest influence, right? Because they will speak about your brand, they will connect with your brand in a very authentic way. This is the ladder of influence. Hopefully that was helpful. It was a tool. So don't try to skip steps. Don't try to think you're going to start here on the top and then you're going to have a meaningful relationship, because it's going to be very difficult to build an authentic and human connection. So there's the 4 steps here to identify the right fit for your brand. 4 steps to find the right fit. So step number 1, you need to know who. Remember, who is the most important person that you serve. You need to know who is your core consumer. Once you know who this person is, you're also going to be able to know and move to step number 2. What influences this person, right? So you know who you want to serve, you know who you want to connect is the most important person for your brand, for your product, and for your message. Then you need to figure out what actually influences these individuals. What are their hobbies? What do they listen to? What do they read? And then the number 3 is what matters the most Once you know what influences, you need to know what matters the most for these people. Know who they are, know what influences them, know what matters. And then fourth is how can you or your brand help them? Okay, so now you're probably going, what does this have to do with finding the right fit and the right person to be the creator for your brand? Well, if I know who they are, I know what influences them, I know what matters to them, and how it can help them, I can then profile the who are the most influential voices within this community. Who are the people that are opinion leaders, that have authority, that can connect and help you answer those things? Without these 4 steps, finding the right person becomes very difficult and maybe a flat exercise, right? So there are also, once you do this and you know who this person is, right? We're gonna move to another exercise. Is the 4 steps to profile your creator, right? Number 1, audience engagement, right? Is the audience of this creator engaged with them, right? If that person posts something, does the community relate and share? So, do people relate and share their message, right? You want to make sure that even if I have 10 million people, but whatever I say in post, people cannot relate and they don't share. Number 2, audience recency. What does that mean? Is how often, right, do these people connect with the creator? How often are they in a 2-way relationship with the creator? Is there belief? Do people believe in this connection? Is it real? Right? That's very important. There is a truth to it. Then number 3 is audience participation. Do people participate and engage? Is there an emotional relationship with this individual? A great example of participation frequency is Paris Hilton. You know, the little Paris around the world, whatever she does, they're constantly engaging with her. And then 4th is the audience, captive audience, right? And that means is if there's intention, if there's loyalty, if people keep coming back, you know, and then if the individuals can't wait to see what that person, right? So intention, and loyalty, right? What I like to do a lot of times when I write things like this, and I'll recap a little bit for you, right? It's actually to write the desired outcome that I want for each of those stages. But let me recap first. The ways for you to profile in knowing that you found the right person is the audience engaged with their content? Do people relate and share their stories? There's audience recency. Is there a belief and a connection to that person? Are people participating and they're connecting emotionally with the story? And there is the audience captive. Are they coming back? So the sentences that I like to is, let's just put it in real person talk. Let's just say that everybody that you talk to about this creator, they can actually say, this is my community, right? They feel that they are part of it, right? So that's a desired outcome. Number two, if the belief part is they believe that if they can do it, if they can, so can I, right? Because that belief and that connection, and somebody's speaking in that terms, it means they're acting and they're responding in an actionable way, right? Part of here of the audience participation is this notion of that this individual and this creator always inspires me. And the last point on the intensity is that there is this anticipation where I can't wait, right? I can't wait for what's next. So once you found out by defining who your audience is, understanding who the right person is, can you answer those 4 pillars? Are they engaged? There's recency. Are they participating? And is his audience captive? If those are, you're starting to head into the right direction. Let's talk about a case study real quick. A case study that I love is, sadly, the creator community lost an incredible inspiration this year, which is Virgil Abloh. And one of the case study I've been constantly using, and I love this, is when Virgil created the Off-White collection with Nike, right? And there was an integrated influencer roadmap, and I want to make sure this slide is actually showed into the presentation, where we talked about building an integrated roadmap for the creator. First, you need to identify the person. We talked about, we identified. We map them, we engage them. Once you do those 3 steps that I just walked you through, you're going to imagine what are the possibilities you can build the relationships with, and then tell the story. But once you do this, you have to assess. Every relationship we assess on an ongoing basis. So you identify, you map, you engage, you imagine, you storytell, and you assess, right? And within imagining and storytelling, there's a few subsections, which is your co-creation and your brainstorming with that person, your planning, your creation or production, and your activation, right? So that's the roadmap. With Virgil Abloh and Nike, there was a dream, right? And Virgil went to Nike and he pretty much told Nike, hey, those are the 13 sneakers that makes up 80% of your business. And so Nike ran the numbers and they came back like, oh yeah, that's actually true. And he didn't want to create his own silhouette. He just wanted to take a different spin and reinterpretation of what that could be with the Off-White collection. So they connected, they built a relationship, and then Nike and Virgil both invested in the relationship. If you go back to the pyramid of influence, that is the top 10%. They are the true creators. They are the ones that both parties are heavily invested from a resource perspective, including time, money, and people to make it successful. Here are some images of some of the most beautiful and coveted sneakers that Virgil dropped with Nike. And those are the ones that actually reignited Nike back into become a sneaker relevant brand within the sneaker culture. So as we start to look at it, it's extremely busy to cut through. There's so much out there. Everybody's trying to do this. There's three things I want you to remind. Find your space. Where is the space in the marketplace that there's not anybody playing around? Then focus your brand and define your point of difference in there. And once you do that, you grow your audience from there. There's a very easy and simple exercise. I call it the white space exercise. And usually I just like to very simply draw a triangle here, right? And this triangle, let's just say, is the whole marketplace, right? And then I invite you to think about the white space that's around. And I want you to close your eyes and then start to think about what are the opportunities within this whole area. Most of people, when I do this exercise, they will tell the story and they'll try to go compete right here, right at the middle of this triangle, because that's what you see. But the key here is there's so much more space around that instead of you going head to head in a very busy space, why don't you create an opportunity to play here? And what happens when you move your brand to a space and to an area where there's not a lot of people? Well, you become immediately the number one. And then if you start growing your presence, you start to grow market share. You start to become way more relevant. You talk to more people. And sometimes, most of the times, there's more money to be made in spaces where there are not a lot of competition. So find your space, focus your brand, and grow your audience as you move into new areas.